I would like to build up on the continuity of Dubai Chamber's efforts in addressing the challenges and hindrances that entrepreneurs and startups are facing here in Dubai and the UAE. And again, building up on the traction and positive feedback that we received from the white paper, opening bank account, when we engaged the wider ecosystem of banks, licensing authorities, the Ministry of Economy, to make the process of opening bank account and explore different options available for the startups. So that experience and the result were assuring for us to keep pushing for the wider ecosystem engagement to ensure that all the challenges that have been named as the top hindrances for Dubai startups are addressed by us with the support of our partners on a systematic basis and institutional level. When it comes to challenges of navigating in the ecosystem and when we ask ourselves what we can do, we dedicated the next release, the fourth release of the Startup Panorama report that will be released later this week, specifically to that subject: who is who in the funding ecosystem in the UAE. So I would encourage everybody, be it investor based here locally or international one, likewise the startup, to have a look and to get this quick idea of what options are available, what organizations are providing you financing, and what will be the best way for you to approach this topic.
Okay, so some of the challenges we find that SMEs are focusing here really is around access to finance, and not just access, but its speed and its cost as well. So we find those are the three things when we are basically talking to SMEs that they really have difficulty addressing. And in particular, when talking about those three issues, it's around unsecured debt. So banks are great at giving debt when basically there's some security behind it. It could be a house, it could be, I've heard, a boat, for example, anything that's secure. But whereas unsecure, and so many of what are businesses today in Dubai are knowledge-based. These are businesses with relatively few people, but who have great cash inflows and great contracts, but have difficulties around the working capital cycle. So one of the things we really focus on are helping those earlier stage, and these are not startups, at their earlier stage, it could be 2, 3, 4 years old, operating in the UAE that will help the UAE generally grow as an economy, and giving them the cash basically to help them grow quickly when they need it, and getting that cash to them quickly, because basically we can turn a credit assessment around about 5 days, and that's critical for businesses. It really is critical that they can get the cash in and deploy it quickly, so they can hire the people, so they can buy the necessary licenses they need to, or so they can move space.
So the potential in the region, I believe, is high, but I believe we can actually have a different class of investors stemming from the region. So traditionally we have very strong values and strong kind of ethical basis. But one of the things that concerns me, and I love to spend time with investors on, is enabling them to understand who they should be investing in. So there's a lot of complexity. For instance, if you look at blockchain technology or artificial intelligence, how do you know the right questions to ask in order to determine if it is the right company to invest in? So it's not only the technology, but it's also the people behind the technology, because how they think and actually their moral compass is a very big marker for determining success of the future. It's a fascinating space. There are metrics that we use that are used in the ecosystem, which I think are flawed. So for instance, a lot of people say it's a great company, they've raised X million. That is not a definition of a great company, because what's happened is founders are creating businesses that they think investors want to invest in, but they're not necessarily solving the problems that they really want to solve. So we need to level up the conversation on both sides. There's, you know, this particular company or this particular VC invested and therefore it's good. Not necessarily so. So we need to get smarter in our due diligence.
If you look at banking in general, you could say, if you look back, then due to all the regulation, you could say that banking by default is very bureaucratic. And now all of a sudden you're actually asking people to be very innovative. It's like kind of you're opening up for conflict. So it is simply also to say, yeah, we still have the regulations, there's still a lot of compliance, a lot of know your customers, a lot of regulations you need to pay attention to, but you also need to be more innovative, which is a learning process for quite a lot of people to actually make that shift. It's important to pay close attention to the human part, and that it is really human that resistance against change is also a way of expressing your concern that do we actually know what we are doing? Is this safe to be doing this new stuff? So actually see it from that point of view as well.